Hello, welcome to Zigmatech Learning Hub. I'll be your instructor for English language. For this class, we are going to be taking our exercises from the ExamGuide app. If you don't have the application already installed on your device, I will want you to download the app in order to follow along in the class. ExamGuide is a leading educational app that helps students prepare adequately for various exams like UTME, post-UTME, WEAC, GCE, KCPE, IJMB, JUPEB, Cowbellpedia, BECE, JSCE, NCEE, NECO, etc. You can download the app from www.examguide.com or Google Play Store. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be updated on new videos. Ready for today's class? Okay, let's get started. Welcome to another English class. Today we'll be looking at very interesting topic, interesting and at the same time tasking. It's actually classified under grammar, and sometimes when questions from this very topic are posed, people tend to fail it at times, owing to the fact that they do not understand the rules that govern the topic. So today we'll be looking at Concord. Concord is a topic in grammar, and virtually every exam, brings out the topic, be it just a question or two questions. We find such in our WAEC exams, objective aspect. You can see that in your post-UTME or the UTME exam. And very importantly, even in our writing exercises, we make mistakes by virtue of our lack of understanding of this very topic. So today we want to look at the topic. I wouldn't say holistically because it's very broad, but I will do justice to quite a few types of it, and hoping that it will guide us to a large extent. So the topic once again is Concord, and looking at the word Concord in a layman's understanding, one would just term it to be an understanding or agreement between two people. So if I speak, or rather use the word in a general gathering, I'm in concord with someone, the very understanding that comes to mind is that I'm in agreement with the person. But today we don't want to look at concord in the light of agreement with humans or people, but we want to look at concord in respect to grammar. And when we talk about concord in respect to grammar, we are looking at agreement between subject and the verb. Now, in a sentence, there are elements in a sentence. There are several elements in the sentence, but concord specifically governs two specific elements, and those are the subject and the verb, the subject and the verb. So basically today we'll be looking at the subject-verb agreement under the topic Concord and how we can use them appropriately. Now let's move down to the definition we have here on the screen. It says Concord refers to grammatical agreement between two parts of a sentence. It refers to the way that a word has a form appropriate to the number or gender of the noun or the pronoun it relates to. Alright, so that is it. That concord is an agreement between two parts of a sentence. I've mentioned the two parts of the sentence. I told us that it's an agreement between the subject and the verb. Now, it is important to note that when a sentence is made, there are two aspects of the sentence that you cannot do without, and that is the subject and the verb. As long as you're making a sentence, then the subject and the verb must be present in that sentence, except it is not a sentence. And that's why we're looking at the sentence while discussing concord. Now, in the subject of a sentence, the subject can either be a noun or a pronoun. In our definition of a noun, we said that a noun is a name of a person. So if we say that the subject can either be a noun or pronoun, it simply means that if I'm using the name of a person, be it male or female, there is a pronoun form for them. So that's why we said that subjects can be nouns and they can as well be pronouns. Now remember that in our discussion of parts of speech, when we looked at verbs, or rather we've not looked, but we'll look at it at some point, when we said that verbs are really action words and state of being. They are not just action words, but they are also state of being. So we must understand the state of being verbs and the action verbs. When we understand these things, they help us a whole lot to get the right answers when working with Concord. So the example we have here says he loves her. He loves her. Now there is concord between the singular form of the verb and the singular pronoun he. Now what we are saying in essence is that he is the subject of the sentence, and because he is the subject of the sentence, it has to agree with the verb that is used. I can't say he loved her. That would be wrong. Now most singular verbs have s, or rather let me say it that way, that singular verbs have s while plural verbs don't have s. So when I'm using that type of verb that has s, it simply means that I'm using the singular form of a verb, and singular forms of verbs agree with singular pronouns or singular nouns. That's what we must have at the back of our mind. All right, so let's look at the types of concord. Like I said earlier, for benefit of time and understanding, we'll be looking at basically 5 types of concord. We have over 12 of them. You have your grammatical concord, you have your proximity concord, you have your quasi-concord, you have your categorization concord, you have your notional concord, you have concord of many, you have indefinitival concord, you have gerundial concord, you have so many of them, double title concord, concord of coordinating subjects. But we want to look at 5 types of concord today for purpose of time and as well understanding. All right, the grammatical concord. The grammatical concord is a normal general concord, all right, where we are told from primary school that if something is one, it should agree with one. If the subject is singular, it should agree with a singular verb. That's the grammatical concord, where you speak grammatically right. So it will be out of place to say the boy are here. You know it's wrong, because boy means just one person and are is a plural verb. So when you hear someone speak such, you begin to wonder if the person was sure of what he was saying or not. So basically what we are saying is that if the subject is singular, it should agree with a verb which is also singular. Now, how do you identify your singular verbs? I said it earlier that singular verbs take s. You'll see that from this example, all our singular verbs have s, while the plural verbs don't have s. That's one thing. Now, we would continue with the other. See, the principle of grammatical concord holds with nouns that are grammatically marked for plural. It is the easiest type of concord, and exactly it is. Why I'm pointing out that it's the easiest type of concord is because by the time we go deeper into concord, you see that there are some of them that are really dicey. It demands your in-depth, attention and understanding to get to understand them. So this is the simplest one, where Obi is a boy, where Ada is a girl, where Obi and Ada are children. All right, so that's just it. A case of using your is where it's supposed to be and using your are where it's supposed to be when you are referring to one person. So it says that if the subject is singular, that's the rule of grammatical concord, that if the subject is singular, the verb will also be singular, and if the subject is plural, the verb will be plural. It's as simple as that. Now let me quickly mention our singular verbs. Now here are our singular verbs. Am is a singular verb. Is is a singular verb. Was is a singular verb. You have your has is a singular verb. Does is a singular verb. Goes is a singular verb. So any of these verbs can agree with singular subjects, noun, or singular plural pronoun. Yes, singular pronouns or singular nouns as subjects. All right. Now let me mention our plural verbs. Now where we have is as a singular verb, are is a plural, where is a plural verb, go is a plural verb, have is a plural verb, do is a plural verb. Now where we talk about these verb linkers that have s, smile is a plural verb, while smiles is a singular verb. That was why I said our singular verbs have s, while plural verbs don't have s. So here are some examples of grammatical concord. The boy is here. Then the plural of it says the boys are here. Then the man likes food. The plural form says the men like food. Now we are moving. We are coming to proximity concord. Proximity concord. Now what is the word proximity? What do you understand by the word proximity? When we talk about proximity, we talk about nearness. We talk about the closeness of a thing to you or to a person or to a thing. So that's it. So when we talk about proximity concord, we'll be looking at that type of concord that determines its verb by virtue of the noun or the pronoun that is closer or closest to the verb choice. I will repeat. I said to identify proximity concord, we will be considering the noun or the pronoun closer or closest to the verb choice. Now, when I'm making a sentence as this, either Mr. Jerry or Lillian, or rather let me say, either Mr. Jerry, Lillian, or the crew, I will have to use are, because the crew is the very word that is closest to my verb choice. Immediately after the crew, I want to use a verb, and that verb I have to use at that point has to be the verb that would agree with the last subject in that sentence. So that's proximity concord. So proximity means nearness. The principle of proximity concord says that if two or more subjects are coordinated, that is joined by correlative coordinators. What are the correlative coordinators? Either or, neither nor. The subject that is closest to the verb determines the concord. The rest, that's the first one or ones, are ignored. It's as simple as that. I make my students understand that, if you don't want to go through so much stress, once you have a sentence pointing at either or, eliminate from the or no, read without the no. It's easier for you that way. So if I have a sentence as this, if the boys fails his exam, either once I see either, and I know it's proximity concord, I will start reading from his sister is to be blamed. Because when you read everything, it makes you feel that these very persons are involved in whatever is being said. But this is the very person that we are looking at, that very noun that is closer or closest to the dash. So either his parents, his friends, nor his sister is to blame, not her. So the second example says, neither Kingsley's friends nor his wife likes him. So his wife likes him. That's it. We don't involve Kingsley. Remember we said the noun closer or closest to the verb determines your verb choice. So these are other examples pointing to that. Now let's look at categorization concord. That's the third type of concord. Categorization concord. What do we mean by categorization concord? You will agree with me that when you get to a place, it looks as if people are categorized according to their caliber. In a place we have people who call the timbers and the calibers, those who matter in the society. Now, when you categorize people, you go to a place, you say, oh, these are the rich, these are the middle class, and these are the poor. you have classified those people. That's categorization concord. So there are adjectives that denote a group or category of people. Such words include the poor, the rich, the lame, the blind, the helpless, etc. You have the truthful, you have the lame, you have the cripple, you have the disturbed, the faithful, all right? So these are people you have classified. So when these words are used as a subject of a sentence, two things happen. The first is that these words are not pluralized. At no point should you pluralize categorization or adjectives that are referred to as a category of people. We are not to pluralize them. That's saying they pause. No. They are already group of persons who are seen to have the same characteristics or attributes. So we refer to them as the poor. It's a plural word. All right, so that's it. So the first thing is that they are not pluralized, and so we do not have a form of it as the poor or the blinds. Now we have the second thing is that they take plural verbs. They don't take singular verbs. They take plural verbs. Why? Because they are plural. As much as we refer to them as the poor, we know that these are a number of persons that are seen to have a particular attribute. So we have the poor need our help, not needs. The rich also cry, not cries. The blind see with their inner eyes, not sees. And we have the lame plead for alms, not pleads. So these are things we must have at the back of our mind, that when you see this class of people, that the adjectives denote what category of people or group of people in a particular thing. All right, so we look at this one. This one is very important. It's hard at the same time, but why I don't see it as hard is once you understudy the words, once you memorize these 5 words that guide them, I doubt if you will have problems identifying the verb choice to use when you have a sentence involving any of these words. Now we have another type of concord. Remember, we have looked at grammatical concord, we've looked at proximity concord, we've looked at categorization concord, and here we are with the quasi-coordinated subjects. Concord of quasi-coordinated subjects. Now, in this type of concord, we have basically 5 words that are used. Now, when any of these 5 words is used, all right, when any is used, what happens? You know, unlike the proximity concord where we said that the last word, or rather the last noun, determines the verb choice, in quasi-coordinated concord, the very first word the very first subject determines the verb. I repeat, the difference between proximity concord and quasi-coordinated concord is this. In proximity concord, the last noun determines the verb you are to use, be it singular or plural. While in quasi-coordinated subjects, the first noun, as the first subject, determines your verb. How do I know quasi-coordinated subjects? Once I see these words as well as, with, together with, in conjunction with, along with. So anywhere any of these words is used, I should have at the back of my mind that the very first subject conditions my verb choice. So here it says, when these words are used to join 2 subjects, only the first subject controls the verb and determines the concord, that determines the agreement between the subject and the verb. So the second subject is ignored. Example, the president, together with his ministers, has arrived. When we say how possible, why not have? We have the president and we have the ministers. That's a rule. And we said, according to the rule of quasi-coordinated subjects, the very first subject determines the verb. All right, so that's the same thing with number 2. The principal as well as all the teachers and students is in the hall right now, not are in the hall right now. The man with his wife was killed in the earthquake, not were killed in the earthquake. Finally, the teacher, along with his students, is aware of the crime, not aware of the crime. All right, the last one is our double title Concord. The double title Concord. What is it about the double title Concord? Now, I want to say something. When it comes to the double title Concord, one thing you must take note of is that the very article or determiner that is used to introduce the very first subject governs the second. What I mean is this: if I, just like the example I have, or rather let me give an example. If I say my mother and my confidant. Now I've used my as the determiner. My mother and my confidant, I will definitely use are, because these are two different people, and I'm using my coordinating conjunction to join two different people, and it's more like saying they are here. So my mother and my confidant are here. But in the case of double title Concord, is more or less referring to a particular person, or rather giving two titles to a particular person. Giving two titles to a particular person. So I can easily see my mom, yes, indeed, she's my mother, and I also see her as a confidant. So if I have a sentence as my mother and confidant, that means it's just one person. In this case, it attracts a singular verb. So my mother and confidant is available. But in the case of the other sentence, you see that before the confidant, I have my as a determiner for the confidant, meaning that it's a different person altogether. I have my mother with me, I have my confidant with me, so they are available. But when I have only my mom, in my mom I see a confidant. That is just one person functioning in two ways. So it's just a person. So my mother and confidant is available. So that is it with double title Concord. When one person is seen in two dimensions, it's still just one person. So at that point, it attracts singular verb. So double title Concord is when two or more words referring to the same person are joined by and. The verb will be singular. All right, so our English teacher and head of department. She's our English teacher and head of department. So it's just one person. They are not two. And in this case, it will attract a singular verb, which is. So our English teacher and head of department is absent today. The second example says the principal and chairman of the occasion. So if in this sentence I had another day before the chairman, it will be entirely two different persons. But because I don't have that article day, it means I'm still referring to that same person. So I have the singular verb has, not have. So the director of the center and renowned professor of literature, he's the director of the center as well as what? The renowned professor of literature. So in this case, it's still one person. It's possible for you to have one person having 5 titles. Yes, it's possible. So that's what it is. We wouldn't say because the person has 2, 4, 3 titles, you will now give a plural form of the verb for it. It's just like when you say my names are is wrong, because the name, or maybe whatever you refer to as names, is just one person. So whether you have 5, whether you have your father gave you your English name, gave you the native name, and the native name, there are 2. If you want to introduce yourself, my name is, because you can't say my names are, because it's that name or whatever has to do with a singular person. You are an entity, so you can't be pluralized. So that's how it is with this. Once you're referring to one and the same person with so many titles, use your singular verb. And finally, my father and confidant is the best. I can't say my father and confidant are the best. I can only say my father and my confidant are the best. That means they are 2 separate people. I have my father, I have my confidant. All right, this is a little task I have for us before we go to our exam guide, or rather to check one or two questions on UTME. This is the example I have for you. I would appreciate it if you respond to these answers. Just put your response in our notice board, and we will definitely get it and mark you and see how far you have grabbed the lesson for today. Patient says Aaron, together with his wife, dashed the guests of the party. So you're expected to give the right verb choice. You see, you have just two options, so you have to give the right option for this very sentence. The truthful, remember, the truthful has to do with categorization concord. Aaron, together with his wife, that is our quasi-coordinated subject. Then either she or her friends, that's proximity concord. And neither me nor my friends, also proximity concord. All right, without wasting our time, let's look at what we have in our UTME. I'll be taking just two questions. You understand with me that in UTME, basically all aspects of English, all aspects are being touched. So I've checked and I just was able to get number 7, which has the question buttressing on the topic we have taught today. So it says, if James fails his examination, his teacher, his parents, his friends, or I dash to be blamed. I guess we had something like that in one of the examples we gave. So looking at this, I know that this is proximity concord because I have or, in as much as either isn't there, but I have or, which speaks of proximity concord, and that is your correlative conjunction. So, and in proximity concord, we said that we are treating the noun or the pronoun that is closer or closest to the option. So you can see that the word closest to it is I. We have so many subjects. We have subject 1, teachers, subject 2, parents, subject 3, friends. All right, then subject 4 is I, which is a pronoun. So this is what actually conditions my verb. I will leave off from or up till if, and I will read from I. That's the best way I teach my students when it comes to proximity concord, the use of either or neither or. Do not bother yourself reading a whole lot of sentence. Once you see no or, start reading from the word after or no, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say that I am to be blamed. So the answer is what? Am. But if you read all of this, you will see that you may end up saying that the answer is are or is. So if James fails his examination, his parents, his teachers, his students, or I are to blame. That's how some people will fix it because of the number of subjects they saw. So like I said, when it comes to proximity concord, the use of neither nor or either or eliminates from or, read from the subject after or, and that's where you get your right answer. So the answer to this is I am to be blamed. If James fails his examination, his teachers, his parents, his friends, or I am to blame. It sounds funny, but it's actually the right answer. So we take also number 14. I guess that's another place we have concord. Yes. This as well as, remember I taught something like this, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, the quasi-concord, where we have 5 words that we look at and we know we are referring to the quasi-concord. And we said in the quasi-concord, unlike the proximity, the first subject determines the verb. So let's see what happens here. Mary is my first subject, so I can read Mary dash beautiful. That's to say that Mary is beautiful. So Mary, as well as her friends, is beautiful. Some people will say, our friends are involved, I'm choosing her. It is wrong. Remember, it's a rule, and you have to work with the rule. The rule of quasi-concord says that the first subject conditions your verb. So Mary, being my first subject, will determine my verb choice, and that is Mary is beautiful. I would advise that you go through other years of UTME, check questions relating to Concord and try to answer them to test how far you have learned. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like study mode, mock mode, and practice mode. It also has other features that make learning fun. It is a must-have for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and share the videos to people that will benefit from it. Bye.